What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all are healthy and well. Welcome, all my new supporters. Thank you so much for giving me a chance and for stopping by. Today, we'll be reacting to 7-stage collapse pattern. America is at stage 5. Now, this video is highly recommended. The title threw me completely off. I was like, what is going on? As soon as I see the title, I was like, another disappointment. Yep. Thank you so much, everyone, for all the recommendations. Feel free to flood my comment section. Let's jump right into this video.
There's a pattern in history that has destroyed 3 global superpowers in the last 500 years. And right now in 2025, the United States is following that exact same pattern stage by stage, decision by decision, almost like we're reading from the same script that led to catastrophe every single time before. In 1590, Spain was the richest empire on earth. They controlled half the world's gold and silver. Their military dominated Europe. Their currency was accepted everywhere. Within 80 years, they were bankrupt, a second-rate power that never recovered. In 1914,
80 years? Damn.
Everywhere. Within 80 years, they were bankrupt, a second-rate power that never recovered. In 1914, Britain ruled the largest empire in human history. The sun never set on British territory. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Within 40 years, the empire was gone. The currency collapsed. They became America's junior partner. In 1991, the Soviet Union was the other superpower. Nuclear weapons, global influence, satellites spanning the globe. It ceased to exist in 900 days. Not from war, but from economic implosion. 3 times, 3 superpowers, 3 complete collapses, all following the exact same sequence. And here's what should terrify you. The United States has already completed 5 of the 7 stages. We're not approaching the pattern, we're deep inside it. This is the story of how empires die, why they always think they're different, and why the maths says that the United States is next. And it's happening faster than anyone wants to admit. Before we go through the pattern, you need to understand what imperial collapse actually looks like. Not in textbooks, but in practice. What it means when a superpower dies. Imperial collapse doesn't start with invasion or military defeat. It starts with economic exhaustion. The empire extends beyond its ability to maintain itself. Military bases in 150 countries, wars on multiple fronts, promises it cannot keep, debts it cannot repay. At first, the decline is invisible. The currency still works, the military still wins battles, the government still makes promises. But beneath the surface, the foundation is cracking, resources are misallocated, productive capacity shrinks, the best and brightest people leave, and then comes the acceleration. Allies start hedging, enemies test boundaries, trade partners seek alternatives, the reserve currency status erodes, and suddenly the advantages that made you powerful become vulnerabilities.
And you know that the US is in like a double debt now, because we had our original debt within our whole country, our government, we were seriously in debt, a debt that we never paid off, let alone the travel debt. We took a big loss. We have nobody visiting our countries now or crossing the borders, none of that. So that's another huge debt on top of the original debt. It's crazy. But he's right. We won't notice it sooner or later, actually. But our military will still continue to go to war. They will still be paid. They'll still have ammunition coming in, armor, vehicles, you name it. It's coming through. But underneath the surface, it's just cracking. We're falling apart because we're literally digging a grave for ourselves. We're in debt. We ain't got no money to pay for none of this. I just wanted to focus. We ain't got no money to pay for all this. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the people don't realize. They think that we are so rich. Don't we have like $1 trillion military defense budget? Ain't do nothing with it. We are in debt, guys. People usually say like, why you guys ain't getting new vehicles, better military vehicles and everything, well protected and more armor, better ammunition. I'm like, man, they got to be happy with what they got already, because that money not even supposed to be towards what we can get for our military. We got so much debt, it ain't even funny. And this is exactly why the U.S. trying to extort everyone. They trying to find little sources to pay it off. It's not going to happen. And you can't pay it off from the people within the country. You can't keep upping the taxes or upping the prices. Come on. You can't do that for so long. It's impossible, bro. Facts. Especially we got so much Americans moving out the country now. You literally deporting everybody out the country, and your citizens are leaving the damn country. Oh yeah, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, we can't take no more losses.
Currency status erodes. Enemies test boundaries. Trade partners seek alternatives.
People
The
gonna test
reserve
us.
currency status
They gonna be
erodes.
like, wait, they ain't got no money. They all in debt. What money they got to put them planes up in the sky or to buy this or that? Let's run their pockets, man. Like, I feel like that's how other countries probably thinking. Like, our enemies, man. Come on, man.
Enemies test boundaries. Trade partners seek alternatives. The reserve currency status erodes. And suddenly the advantages that made you powerful become vulnerabilities. Your currency, once demanded by everyone, comes flooding back home. Your military spread across the world becomes unsustainable. Your promises, once guaranteed by strength, become empty words. That's not theoretical. That's what happened to Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. And it happened because they made exactly the same decisions that America is making now. They believed their power was permanent. They overextended militarily. They debased their currency. And they refused to accept reality until collapse was already underway. Let's look at how it actually happened 3 times the exact same way. Let's start with the first global empire, Spain, from the 1500s to the 1600s. After Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492, Spain became the first true world power. They conquered the Aztec and Inca empires, seized control of the richest gold and silver mines ever discovered. By 1550, Spanish ships were bringing home 200 tons of silver per year. By 1600, over 400 tons annually. Spain controlled the money supply of Europe. The Spanish reals was the global reserve currency. Everyone wanted Spanish silver. And this is where the pattern begins, with a country that controls the money of the world and believes that it makes them invincible. King Philip II, who ruled from 1556 to 1598, had more money than any monarch in history, and he spent it on empire. Stage 1 is military overextension. Spain fought wars everywhere, simultaneously against the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean.
Wait, like, so-called just having them stationed in miscellaneous places, like miscellaneous countries and stuff. Like, why? Why are we wasting money sending troops here and here? Or like trying to take over as such? Like, what do you mean by that? Overextending? Or just like you're going too broad, basically.
Overextension. Spain fought wars everywhere, simultaneously against the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean, against France and Italy, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, against England's navy, wars in the Philippines and wars in the Americas. By 1580, Spain had military commitments on 4 continents. The cost was staggering. Half of Spain's revenue went to the military, and still, it wasn't enough. Stage 2 is currency debasement. The Spanish crown couldn't pay its bills with taxes alone, so they did what every failing empire does. They debased the currency. They started mixing copper into silver coins. A coin that was supposed to be pure silver became 50% copper, then 75% copper. The face value stayed the same, but the real value plummeted. By 1600, Spanish silver coins contained barely any silver. Merchants stopped accepting them at face value. Inflation exploded. Stage 3 is debt spiral. Spain borrowed constantly from Italian bankers, from German bankers, from anyone who would lend. By 1557, less than 20 years into Philip's reign, Spain declared bankruptcy. They defaulted on their debts, restructured, and kept borrowing. They declared bankruptcy again in 1560, again in 1575, again in 1596. 4 bankruptcies in 40 years. Each time they promised reforms. Each time they went right back to borrowing and spending. Stage 4 is loss of productive capacity. Here's what people don't understand about Spain's collapse. They had all the gold and silver in the world, and it destroyed them, because when you have unlimited money, you stop producing. Why grow food when you can import it? Why build ships when you can buy them? Why innovate when you can just spend? Spanish nobility considered
See? And that's the problem. People be getting that dollar bill, and it's like, why not do it yourself? Or use your brain and everything, your intelligence, and save the money and everything. Figure out a way, and then maybe you could flip it and sell it to other countries, such and such. You know, I'm always thinking about how to do this. You know, it's about a profit in the business game. When you trading with countries and stuff, not spending all this money. Man, let's do it ourselves and let's sell it to another country. That's exactly what I would do.
ships when you can buy them? Why innovate when you can just spend? Spanish nobility considered every work beneath them. As a result, manufacturing declined and agriculture stagnated. All the wealth flowed to importing goods from other countries. The gold and silver that came from the Americas went straight back out to pay for French wine, Italian silk, and Dutch goods. Spain became a conduit. Wealth flowed through them, but none of it stayed. By 1600, Spain was...
Wait, so they was getting that? What was it, silver and gold? And they was just basically giving it up as like, man, I owe you type of stuff? Or that's all they could really pay with? That's crazy. I see exactly why, Spain plummeted. I mean, you're never going to win. It's like a cycle.
Became a conduit. Wealth flowed through them, but none of it stayed.
It was silver and gold, though? I'm sorry, guys.
Agriculture stagnated. All the wealth flowed to importing goods from other countries. The gold and silver that came from the Americas went straight back out to pay for French wine, Italian silk, and Dutch goods. Spain became a conduit. Wealth flowed through them, but none of it stayed. By 1600, Spain was producing almost nothing. They were entirely dependent on imports, entirely dependent on silver to pay for everything. And when the silver mines began to deplete, when production dropped, the entire system collapsed. Stage 5 is social decay. With a failing economy, crime exploded. Beggars filled the streets of Madrid. Productive citizens immigrated. The best minds left for France, England, and the Netherlands. The countries that were building, creating, and growing. Spain was left with bureaucrats, soldiers, and priests. No one was creating wealth. Everyone was consuming it. By 1640, Spain lost Portugal. By 1650, they lost the Netherlands, their richest territory. And by 1700, the Spanish Empire was a shell, still large on paper, but economically dead. They went from the world's superpower to a secondary power in less than a century, and they never recovered. Spain today is a regional European country, pleasant, cultured, but irrelevant on the world stage. The descendants of the conquistadors are a tourist destination. That's what imperial collapse looks like. Let's jump forward 300 years. It's Britain in the 1900s.
Nothing but a tourist attraction now, and this and that. Nobody even looks upon them. That's crazy, bro. That is crazy.
Looks like. Let's jump forward 300 years. It's Britain in the 1900s, the empire where the sun never set. At its peak, Britain controlled 25% of the world's land surface, 400 million subjects. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Every major trade contract was denominated in pounds. Every central bank held British bonds. London was the financial centre of the world. And just like Spain 300 years earlier, they believed it was permanent, but they were already following the pattern. Stage 1, the military overextension. By 1900, Britain had military commitments everywhere. India, Africa, the Middle East, China, the Pacific, the Caribbean. They had to defend territory on 6 continents. The cost was enormous. And when World War I started in 1914, Britain faced a choice. Stay neutral and let Europe destroy itself, or jump in and bankrupt the empire to win. They chose to fight. World War I cost Britain over $40 billion. That's $1 trillion in today's money. They borrowed from everyone, mostly from the United States. By 1918, Britain owed America billions. The creditor had become the debtor, but they'd won the war. They kept the empire. They thought they could rebuild, but they were wrong. Stage 2, currency debasement. The pound sterling was supposed to be backed by gold, but the war had drained Britain's gold reserves. They'd shipped gold to America to pay for weapons, food, supplies.
It seemed like everybody, because even Spain, they were sending out the gold and silver. Wow. So that literally meant like no money was flowing through. They was using it as a source of currency. Like, would you take this? Wow. Huh.
Reserves. They'd shipped gold to America to pay for weapons, food, supplies. By 1920, Britain's gold reserves were half what they had been in 1914, but they tried to maintain the pound's value anyway. They went back on the gold standard at the pre-war rate in 1925. The problem was that the pound was overvalued. British exports became too expensive. Manufacturing declined, unemployment rose, and the government had to keep interest rates high to defend the currency. This destroyed the domestic economy. By 1931, they couldn't hold it anymore. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The pound lost 25% of its value overnight. Stage 3, the debt spiral. Britain never recovered from World War I debt, and then World War II started. Another $120 billion in costs, more borrowing from America. By 1945, Britain owed the...
Even more borrowing from America. Where was we getting the money for this? Because we are still in debt. Are we just where was we what money did we have to send over like that? Yeah, I'm hearing, oh, we kept borrowing from America, kept borrowing from America. This must have been when America was popping, because when did we ever have this much money without being in debt? We just giving it away, helping. How does that work for us? What if is it even possible for a country to borrow from the US if the US doesn't have the money? Like, can't we front the money and borrow it? So it's like we borrow on our behalf, but trying to be reliable, but we're waiting on you to pay us back. Can it work like that or no? If the country don't got it, they can't give it. Because in today's time, I think nah. I don't think it would be possible, honestly. We have nothing to give. Like, we honestly cannot help anybody out right now. We are useless. This country is like useless right now. As far as like dependability, reliance from other countries, oh no. They ain't nobody gonna hit us up.
$1 billion in costs, more borrowing from America. By 1945,
Wow.
Britain owed the United States and Canada over $30 billion more than Britain's entire GDP. The war was won, but the empire was finished. They couldn't defend it anymore, couldn't afford it, couldn't maintain it. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1947, Britain gave up India, the crown jewel, and the source of wealth for 200 years gone. Over the next 20 years, they lost everything: Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean. By 1970, the British Empire existed only in history books. Stage 5, the currency collapse. The pound kept falling. In 1940, £1 equaled $403. By 1950, $280. By 1970, $240. By 1980, £2 equaled 30, and today it's fallen to £27. The global reserve currency became a regional currency. Britain tried to maintain permanent seat on the UN Security Council, nuclear weapons, special relationship with America. But everyone knew the truth. They were a former power, a museum of what used to be great. The empire was gone and it never came back. Now let's look at the most recent example, the Soviet Union, which ruled from 1945 to 1991. After World War II, the USSR emerged as a superpower. They had nuclear weapons, massive military control over Eastern Europe, satellites in space, and they believed they were the future, and communism would bury capitalism and the Soviet model would dominate. For 45 years, they competed with America, matched USA militarily, built more tanks, more missiles, more troops, but beneath the surface, the economy was dying. Stage 1, the military overextension. The Soviet Union spent 15 to 20% of GDP on the military. That's triple of what America spent. They had to match American technology, American reach, American alliances. They were in Afghanistan, propping up Cuba, supporting Syria, Vietnam, North Korea, Angola, Ethiopia.
Oh,
Everywhere America
that is a lot of people to break off.
had influence they had to counter. The cost was unsustainable. Stage 2, the economic stagnation. The Soviet economy stopped growing in the 1970s. Oil revenue kept them afloat, but nothing else worked. Factories produced junk, farms failed, technology fell decades behind. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was importing grain. A country with some of the best farmland on earth couldn't feed itself. Why? Because central planning doesn't work, because innovation dies under control, because no one produces when there's no incentive. Stage 3, currency collapsed. The ruble was never a real currency. It couldn't be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens didn't trust it. They used
The ruble. It's my first time hearing the ruble. In the Soviet Union, they used the ruble. Okay.
produces when there's no incentive. Stage 3, currency collapsed. The ruble was never a real currency. It couldn't be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens didn't trust it. They used dollars when they could get them. The government
Well, then why didn't they create something new? Then if they was like, well, even the people within the country census was like, I'm not using this. If I travel with this, they're gonna deny it. Now I'm walking around with no money basically because it don't mean nothing. How come they didn't like change it and make it a little more neutral with the rest of the world to be able to use it? You know, is that even possible though? Is that even possible though? Would that even be possible though? So like this is only good within its country, even though it just said it's not really a currency though. Is he referring to like the fact that you can't use it around the world, but maybe you could use it within that country? Only is what? What? That is wild. Only, bro. I don't want it then. You know. So if you travel to the Soviet Union, you gotta like. If we go to the Soviet Union, we would have to like exchange our currency for the ruble, right? Considering like they want to take our American dollars, which is crazy though, right? They should. They should take our money and stuff. That way they could diversify the currency and it'll just work out with all the other countries. But who's really visiting like that? Like, I don't know. Maybe it would work out. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe I'm overthinking it, you know?
Stage 3, currency
Overthinking a
collapsed.
lot.
The ruble was never a real currency. It couldn't be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens didn't trust it. They used dollars when they could get them. The government had to buy foreign goods with gold and oil because nobody wanted rubles. By 1985, oil prices dropped. Soviet gold reserves were depleting. They were running out of real money. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Eastern Europe left. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, East Germany, all gone in a year. The satellites that gave the Soviet Union strategic depth vanished. The Soviet government couldn't stop it, and they were broke. Stage 5, the complete collapse. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. 900 days from Berlin Wall to complete dissolution. No war, no invasion, just economic implosion. The military couldn't be paid. The government couldn't function. The ruble became worthless. A superpower with 30,000 nuclear weapons collapsed.
That's what I feel like it's gonna be for the US soon. Like, you know, the people in the military, their checks are gonna get withheld. Seriously. And that's scary. Imagine fighting for the country and you don't know if you're gonna get paid or not. Mhm.
Function. The ruble became worthless. A superpower with 30,000 nuclear weapons collapsed from internal economic failure. The pattern played out again: overextension, currency failure, debt, loss of empire, and finally collapse. And here's what should keep you awake at night. The United States is following the exact same pattern stage by stage. Let me show you how. Stage 1, the military overextension. The United States has over 750 military bases in 80 countries. It has troops in 150 countries. It is committed to defending Europe through NATO, defending Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, fighting in the Middle East, countering China, countering Russia. Its military budget is $850 billion annually, more than the next 10 countries combined. But the equipment is aging, recruitment is down, and USA has commitments it cannot fulfill.
Okay, it's 1 trillion now, but for this video, we're a little late towards this video, but around this time he was correct. He was correct. But and we're still plummeting. We're still plummeting. We're still plummeting. So how is our military budget 1 trillion if we are still plummeting as an economy? What? How does that even make sense?
But the equipment is aging, recruitment is down.
Yes, well, we do be having old equipment. Yeah.
And more than the next 10 countries combined. But the equipment is aging, recruitment is down, and USA has commitments it cannot fulfill. If China invades Taiwan, if Russia pushes into NATO territory, if Iran closes the Persian Gulf, it cannot respond to all of it simultaneously. USA is overextended, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the USSR. Stage 2, the currency debasement. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. The dollar became pure fiat currency. Since 2000, the money supply has increased 400%. Since 2020, USA has printed over $6 trillion. The dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971. USA is not mixing copper into silver coins, it is just printing unlimited paper. The mechanism is different, but the result is the same. Stage 3, the debt spiral. The United States owes $36 trillion, and that's 120% of the GDP. Interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion per year. It is spending more on interest than on defense. The economy runs deficits every year, $1.8 trillion in 2024 in a growing economy. During peacetime, it borrows to pay interest on previous borrowing. That's the definition of a debt spiral. Spain
What?
to pay interest on in 2024 in a growing economy. During peacetime, it borrows to pay interest on previous borrowing.
It borrows to pay interest on the previous borrows. Bro, that is wicked. That is a cycle. That's a matrix you will never ever escape. You're just gonna plummet. That's it. You're gonna plummet. Wow. What?
in a growing economy. During peacetime, it borrows to pay interest on previous borrowing. That's the definition of a debt spiral. Spain defaulted 4 times. Britain borrowed until it collapsed. The USSR ran out of money. America is on the same path. Stage 4, the loss of productive capacity. America doesn't make things anymore. It designs, finance, and consumes, but don't produce. Its manufacturing base has been gutted, shipped to China, Mexico, and Vietnam. USA imports $800 billion more than it exports annually. It is dependent on foreign supply chains for everything: medicine, electronics, steel, even military.
And that's another bad thing, because considering all the issues we got, with between some of the countries, they could literally cut us off, They could literally cut us off. Okay, there's a lot that we use from Canada. Canada can cut all that off or charge us a ridiculous amount, and we're still in debt. Same for all the other countries. They send the medicines and everything that we need for our pharmacy. If they did that, we're screwed. How these people gonna get their medications? You know, it's a lot. And you really look at it, it's like the U.S. we can't really control ourselves at all. We have no full control over this country because we are so dependent on other countries. Now that I'm really learning and thinking about it, yeah. You don't really think about this when times are good, because you don't really think about what could be possible, such as things like this. It really is a shame, though. It really is a shame. That's why I be thinking, if they pull the plug on all that stuff, these people not getting medication.
On foreign supply chains for everything: medicine, electronics, steel, even military
medicine, electronics, steel.
Components. Just like Spain became dependent on imports while the silver flowed out, USA is dependent on imports while dollars flow out. Stage 5, social decay. Trust in institutions is at all-time lows. Crime is rising. Homelessness is exploding. Drug overdoses kills 100,000 Americans annually. The best and brightest are leaving or checking out. Fertility rates are collapsing. Political dysfunction is total. We Americans can't agree on anything, can't fix anything, can't build anything. The signs of decay are everywhere, but everyone pretends it's fine. It's not fine. We're on stage 5 of 7. The Soviet Union made it to stage 5 before complete collapse. So did Britain. Spain lasted longer, but the pattern is the same. We're not at the end yet, but we're deep into the sequence. Stage 6 is loss of reserve currency status. That's when allies start diversifying. When trade moves to other currencies. When the dollar comes flooding back home because no one needs to hold it anymore. And we're seeing early signs. BRICS nations are developing alternatives. Central banks are buying gold. China and Russia are trading in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil. The cracks are forming. Stage 7 is total collapse, not gradual decline, sudden implosion. The Soviet Union went from superpower to non-existent in 900 days. Britain lost the empire in 20 years. Spain took longer, but the result was the same. When the reserve currency fails, when the debt becomes impossible, when the military can't be funded, it doesn't decline gracefully. It collapses quickly, brutally. And everyone who thought it couldn't happen here learns the same lesson every empire learns. It can, and it does. 3 empires followed this pattern: Spain, Britain, the USSR. Each believed they were exceptional. Each believed they were different. Each believed the rules didn't apply to them, or they were wrong every single time. The pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. The pattern is mathematical. You cannot spend beyond your means forever. You cannot maintain empire without productive capacity. You cannot debase your currency without consequences. You cannot avoid stage 6 and 7 once you've completed 1 through 5. The sequence is locked in. The only question is timing. Maybe America has 10 years, maybe 5, or maybe less. But the pattern says that the collapse is coming. And when it comes, it won't be slow. It'll be sudden. Do subscribe.
It'll be okay. So how do we avoid the collapse? And is there any way to rebuild our economy and our government and everything once we plummet? Because I see it coming and there's no way out of it. Is there any way? Because how did the UK shake back? How did Spain shake back? How did the Soviet Union shake back? Well, he said that Spain actually never shook back, and it never will. But what about the UK? What about the country is still up and running itself? Otherwise, if you guys was living in that continuous cycle of living in debt, continuously borrowing, your country would plummet again. And that's not the case right now, right? How long ago was this video made? 2 months ago. This video is actually made 2 months ago. So we are not that late. Okay. But he's talking about back in history. I just want to know, like, is there any way to recover? What would necessarily happen? Our people within the military stop getting paid. Manufacturing companies, they all shut down, such as entrepreneurship businesses. We already know that, especially with the people like who are deciding to not travel. They're on a strike. They're going around to every other country and supporting, should I say, all other items, foods like goods and stuff from other countries, not the US. So that's another loss within the debt we already had within our country that we never paid off. That we had for history. Oh my goodness. That we had since who knows how long. Guys, please feel free to share your honest thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Feel free to educate me down below in the comments on anything you feel I may have been a little confused on throughout this video. Anything that may have not been included throughout this video as well, or just anything in general you would like to include. As always, I love reading the comments. Don't be shy. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, turn all post notifications on. Share the video and channel to your friends and family members. Follow my Twitch and subscribe to all my other YouTube channels in the description down below. I love you all so much. Stay safe, and I hope to catch you all in the next reaction video.